Coming up next, Sitting at 30 takes you downtown for the weekly luncheon meeting of the City Club of Portland. Live weekly coverage of City Club is produced through the facilities of Portland Cable Access. Now we join the City Club for this week's program.
Good afternoon. I'm Harriet Watson, President of City Club, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's Friday Forum with Portland Chief of Police, Mark Kroeker. First, a few announcements. Next Friday, here at the Multnomah Athletic Club, we will hear a presentation on domestic violence, sexual assault, and the recent Supreme Court decision. Our speaker will be Kathy Rogers, President and Executive Director of the National Association of Women Legal Defense and Education Fund. Ms. Rogers represented the defense before the U.S. Supreme Court in this recent case. Also, please note in your bulletins, both from last week and this week, the registration form for our fall after-work series, The Performing Arts Backstage. Space is limited, so if you're interested, please send in your registration today. This opportunity is available to City Club members only. On a sad note, City Club mourns the loss of longtime friend and City Club member Bill Gittleson. Bill joined the club in 1956 and remained a member for 44 years. He served on several study committees, as treasurer on the Board of Governors, and on the Finance Committee as recently as 1996. He will be missed. Our sincerest condolences to his wife, Shirley, and to other family members and friends. Our board host today, seated at the head table, is Dan Findley, member of the Board of Governors, and an internet strategist and information technology specialist for RHAS.com. Following Dan's question, we will open the program to questions from City Club members in the audience. Please line up behind the microphone even before Chief Kroeker is finished so that we have time for as many questions as possible. Please identify yourself as a City Club member, and I implore you to impose self-discipline and ask your question in 30 seconds or less. If not, we have a new prompt, the Charlie Davis commemorative question mark. I have been also asked to ask those of you who prefer to submit written questions if you would please put your name on those questions. Broadcast of City Club programs this quarter is made possible in part by corporate underwriting from CH2M Hill, U.S. Bank, and Enterprise Rent-A-Car Foundation. We are very grateful for their ongoing support. And now to today's program. In the late 1600s, English philosopher John Locke wrote that the goal of law is, quote, not to abolish or restrain, but to preserve and enlarge freedom. For in all the states of created beings capable of laws, where there is no law, there is no freedom. End of quote. One could also assert that there is a necessary and inevitable tension and fragility between law enforcement and the rights of citizens in a free, democratic society. We are presented daily with images and concerns over police doing too much, WTO demonstrations in Seattle, the May Day protests in Portland, or police doing too little, the low-level response of New York police to last month's wilding in Central Park, for example, or police just doing badly, such as the Los Angeles Rampart scandal. In addition, law enforcement agencies are doing their work in a rapidly changing environment. A few months ago, the United States Justice Department documented a substantial number of wrongful convictions resulting from sincere but mistaken eyewitness testimony. We are also well aware of recent cases in which DNA evidence has been used to exonerate individuals convicted primarily on the basis of eyewitness testimony. In response to these findings, the Justice Department has issued the first ever national guidelines on gathering eyewitness testimony. The implications for police and the courts are significant. It is therefore extremely timely that Police Chief Mark Kroeker is with us today. When he first came to Portland 6 months ago, he promised to be, in his words, a student chief, something akin to enrolling in Portland 101 and Portland Police Bureau 101. One could say that the semester's final exams are well underway. Chief Kroeker's more formal education was at Cal State Los Angeles, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in criminal justice, and at the University of California, where he earned a Master of Science degree in international public administration. Prior to his coming to the Pacific Northwest as the first officer from outside Portland in 25 years to be asked to lead this city's police bureau, he had a distinguished 32-year career with the Los Angeles Police Department. In addition, he served as a consultant for the United States Department of Justice on police reform projects in Haiti, Rwanda, and Burundi. He was Deputy Commissioner for the United States International Police Task Force in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And since 1998, he served as a member of the United States Israel-Palestine Anti-Incitement Committee. Chief Kroeker also brings an impressive roster of community activities, including founder and chairman of the board of the World Children's Transplant Fund, cabinet member of the Union Rescue Mission's Project Hope Shelter for Homeless Women, and member of the advisory boards of the Alzheimer's Association Safe Return Program and the Los Angeles chapter of Habitat for Humanity. We have an extraordinary opportunity to engage today in a conversation with Portland Police Chief Mark Kroeker in the best City Club tradition of civil, rational discourse. Chief Kroeker.
Well, thank you so much, Harriet, for that fine introduction and an introduction to dialogue on a great day, a beautiful day in Portland. And it's an honor and a privilege for me to address the City Club here this afternoon, to see you, to get acquainted, and to say some of the things that I have wanted to say for a little while, and have the opportunity now to say things that have to do with where we are going in the Portland Police Bureau in the broader sense. Also, I have to tell you that it has been a true pleasure getting acquainted with the people of Portland and understanding a little bit more, as Harriet talked about, Portland 101. I think this course is going to continue off into the years because learning is certainly a relative situation, and I will never learn enough about this city and its people as long as I'm here, nor about life as long as I'm alive, because every day I'm learning something new, and I learn along the way how much I really don't know. So it truly is relative, and people are getting to know me as I get acquainted with them. Some people, even around the police building at the Justice Center, however, still don't know me. Recently, I'll tell you this little anecdote. I was on the elevator. I got on. Two engineers, construction type guys were there. And they were going somewhere in the building with their work belts, and I said, "Could you push floor 15?" He said, "Oh, okay, push floor 4." He said, "Watch out." And I said, "Well, why?" He said, "15th floor, you know, the big guys up there." And I said, "Okay, I'll be careful." And then he and his buddy was standing next to him, kind of rolling his eyes, you know, and because he kind of knew who I was. And so when they got off and I saw them walking down the hallway, the one turned to the other. He said, "You idiot, that was the chief." So I stood on the elevator myself laughing. But these things are relative as we move forward, and progress is incremental. Progress also is relative, and you have to know where you are to decide where you're going. And it's a relative situation. A little story comes to mind on this issue of relativity. A school teacher alone for the first time in her life, decided she wanted to get a pet. She went to a pet store and found a parrot that she was fond of, and the pet store owner said, "You don't want this parrot." She said, I like the parrot. Why wouldn't I want the parrot? He's a very foul mouth. Well, she said, "I'm a school teacher. I know how to teach, and so I will take care of this parrot." And she bought the parrot, took him home, told him good night, put the cover on, woke him up in the morning and said, "Good morning." The parrot unleashed a stream of profanities, and she said, "Oh, we should never talk this way in this home. We don't allow this language." She put him in the refrigerator and closed the door. And took him out about an hour later, and the parrot was shivering and kind of looked at her a little bit. And this progressed over the next several days, as every day with his profanity, she put him in the refrigerator for a little longer, finally into the freezer for about 3 hours. And on the third day, he came out, and he was shaking, and he said to her, when she said good morning, he said, "I got the message." And she said, "Well, that's good, and we're learning." And he said, "I have a question." "Oh, you have a question?" And in the form of a school teacher, she was ready to answer this question. And the question was, "What did that chicken in there say?" But life is relative, you know, and when you're moving along a certain spectrum, where you are now isn't where you're going to be necessarily. And I trust that in the years ahead, I will know a lot more about Portland than I do now, and that as we move forward on our goals, they will be goals that will be not only articulatable but achievable. You heard a little bit about my background, and I sum it up this way. I was born in Oregon, raised in Africa, and in Europe. Spent my youth and the great years of my life in raising a family in California, in Los Angeles. Spent those sessions in Haiti building a police force after the U.S.-led intervention, Operation Restore Democracy. A wonderful experience that was. And then 1 year in Bosnia, seeing the results of the hatred, interethnic strife and hatred that brought that country to its division, ultimately to former Yugoslavia, into several countries, and the things that continue today. And then working with police officers from 42 countries in trying to strive toward democratic principles of policing, with people who came to that arena from their own countries, not always understanding what democratic principles of policing were. True challenges, and what a life. And then in December of 1999, I came to Portland as your police chief. And I want to tell you that I retain a true sense of gratitude in my heart for being able to have become your police chief at the turn of this century in Portland. And I will look back in my life as one of those moments that was truly a memorable moment when I took over here. And I consider it not only an honor, but a wonderful opportunity and a responsibility that I carry with me daily, as I consider the responsibility to keep the men and women of the organization safe, to keep them and to provide for them a direction about the future, and then to respond to the 513,000 people who are the people of Portland in such a way that they know that with my leadership they will have someone who is fully devoted to producing that policing vision, that policing ideal, and building in the organization a group of men and women who will truly serve the people of the community. And so what have I found? What have I observed in my first few months here? I have observed about Portland that it is a highly interactive city. It is a city that talks to each other, that gets involved, communicative, meets a lot, shares views a lot, doesn't care about who has the view as long as it's shared, and is good. Writes lots of letters, I have many, is interested in its destiny as it should be, and in a very positive and good way has a certain cohesion that I find to be the very underpinnings of what can be ultimately a city's destiny, something that is a very powerful thing, this cohesion, because I have seen the division and the, let's say, balkanization that has occurred in several other cities that I've watched across the years. This city has a certain cohesion, and while tremendous disagreement is here, there is a thriving in that to a picture about what the future should be. In the Portland Police Bureau, I have found an organization with the dedicated people I have found people, men and women, who care, really care, period. And they're here for the right reasons. They are engaged with their community, and they care about the community, and they're interactive, and they meet, and they talk, and they view they air their views. And so with that kind of an equation, I think sometimes we in Portland may take this for granted, this kind of an equation, because what it offers for us is truly a fine ingredient for Portland's becoming what it wants to be. In the area of public safety, who would not want to be the safest city in the nation? And Portland and its police are moving toward a certain quality that has potential for truly exemplary relationships with truly exemplary results. I'm convinced of it. And as we have gone through this painful transition into the year 2000, painful I say because I think in 1995 and thereabouts, when people were talking about the year 2000 as though it were somewhere far out there, and those years collapsed, and then the time came, and now we're here, and we've arrived, and now few people are talking about the year 2005. So I think there's a certain stalemate that can occur at the beginning of the century if we do not look toward the year 2005 and beyond, much like we did about the year 2000 in the year 1995. And look how fast this year 2000 came upon us, and how fast the year 2005 will come upon us with this incredible fast-moving pace where we are, and the incredible technology overload that crowds our daily lives. I mean, it is coming. And so the question that I would have this afternoon is, the year 2005 is coming, ready or not. What is it that we in Portland want this city to be in terms of its safety for the year 2005? And I would propose this afternoon that I absolutely believe that Portland can be, in the year 2005, and perhaps much sooner than that, the safest city in the United States. This is my dream. Thank you. Not only that, I believe that the Portland Police Bureau in the years ahead can be the finest police organization anywhere. The capacity is there for both of these visions, these dreams. They're there. These are not elusive dreams of some person engaged in fantasy talk. These are real. These are achievable. It's not an impossible mission. It can be done. And what I'm finding in Portland with the city and the police and this equation is the makings of that dream. I think it can be done. So what is this? What is this vision? What is it? If you have had the opportunity to look on the web page, you would have seen the strategic plan as it's posted there. This will be going soon to the mayor and to the members of the city council as we put that forward for their acceptance. And the vision for the Portland Police Bureau is actually quite simple. And we have to define this vision as what is it that we see out there in the future. The vision for the Portland Police Bureau is a city free from crime and the fear of crime, where people and police work together to improve their neighborhoods. The Portland Police Bureau is a first-rate law enforcement organization where solid values are deeply embedded in every member, and where members work with the latest technology and facilities. Employees are led by well-trained, attentive, first-line supervisors and supported by community members, support staff, and work systems designed to enhance their effectiveness. All of our work is directed by clearly stated goals, set out in a fully endorsed strategic plan, understood and ingrained at every level. The organization is fully diversified at all levels, an ambitious undertaking. With deep respect for all people, employees and community members are proud of the organization and committed to continuous improvement. That is the vision for the Portland Police Bureau for the future that we'll be taking to the mayor and the city council in the weeks ahead. That's where we are going. And so the question is then, how do you get there? How do you arrive at this rather lofty, you might even call it flowery, idealistic vision? And if it's not an impossible mission, how do we do this? And I would begin by telling you that a vision is not truly a vision unless it's shared. And it can't produce the energy for the leadership and the equation between the community and police unless it is shared. And so that's why I will articulate that. I will be talking about it. I will be reading that vision. I will be stating it, memorizing it, saying it repeatedly, because it needs to be shared and it needs to be understood both inside the organization and in the community. If it's to have any impact, it must be shared. But it takes more than a vision, even a shared vision, to move ahead. And it's leading toward that vision that makes the difference in leadership and the combined energy of a police organization that is fully engaged and a community that is also fully engaged. And in there is great power. The power is not in the police organization that is 10% underdeployed. The power is not necessarily in a community that asks the question, what should we do about it? The power is not in us or in them. As you've heard the expression a number of times, an us-them kind of a relationship. It is the power of we, we doing this together. I have a number of friends from all beliefs and persuasions and ideas, and some of them are quite colorful, and some of them take me to task. And one such friend, as we were talking about things, as they are, of cabbages and kings and so forth, he said to me, you know, you cops, you have on the side of your cars, this was in another place, to protect and serve, and what you ought to have on there with your attitudes is, we're cops and you're not. Because that's how we get it. And he was going on about that, and I said, well, we are cops and you are not, you know. But he made a good point, and I had to tell him that he made a good point. And the idea is not that we are the cops and you're not cops. The idea is that we are the we of this equation. And both of us will remain in an inert kind of a situation unless we develop this momentum that comes out of that relationship. So I'm absolutely convinced that the future of policing in Portland is alive and well, that it has a capacity and a synergy that is found in this power of we. It's there. It's there. That's the very heart of community policing. So it's there. We can do this. And so what is community policing? In your introduction on the little flyer I read, what is community policing? The question remains. And you know, the irony the irony is that the question remains in the minds of many police officers. And one of the reasons is that it has been intellectualized and written about. And there are books and papers and essays and anthologies, and you go on about community policing, and it becomes defined out of understanding of what it truly is. And so in my perspective, I mean, we have it also in the strategic plan, some language here. The vision for community policing recognizes a shared responsibility and connection between the police and the community in making Portland a safer, more livable city. The vision relies on a problem-solving partnership between citizens and police. These partners jointly identify community safety issues, determine resources, and apply innovative strategies designed to create and sustain healthy, vital neighborhoods. Now that's a depiction of community policing that was in the last strategic plan. It's a good one, and it's continuing in this one for the next 2 years. Community policing is a situation where people understand that it is oriented toward the community. It is what the community wants. It is embedded in the neighborhood. That is the focus. That is to say, we can't solve society's problems. We have to develop the crime resistance in the neighborhood by neighborhood. It also is that problem-solving approach to things, getting people from all angles looking at the problem and identifying those problems that have a strategic effect on the crime relatedness and the safety of the neighborhood, and solving those problems together, working together. This is classic community policing. And the final element has to do with community mobilization or community organization. And here is where in the months and years ahead, I think there's much work to do. Because people become, in a busy city, engaged in other things and preoccupied with other things. And then in addition to that, we add the information overload that all of us deal with, and technology, which is sometimes supposed to serve us, sometimes keeps us from one another. This happens. And I sometimes wonder whether the cell phone, the email, the pagers, and all those things that we have helped us really in our forward motion, or do they hinder us? For the first time, I watched people checking out of a Fred Meyer the other day, taking their groceries and scanning their own groceries and paying for it. We don't even talk to the checker at the grocery store. We'll do this all without people. And I wondered about policing when I saw this checking going on. Do we come to a point where, you know, people report their own crimes, don't even take a police officer, talk to it? I guess yes, we do. And then solve their own problems and, you know, arrest their own. It's not supposed to be that way. See, we heard the futurists years ago talking about beware, the time is coming, we're going to have high tech and low touch. And that time arrived. And in policing, we cannot afford high tech and low touch. We have to have high tech and high touch. In other words, there has to be a marriage of technology to our need to touch each other and to be there and available for that human part of policing that people desperately need. When they have a problem, they don't want to press little buttons and listen to menus and things. They want to talk to a police officer who's there to help them, has a compassion for them, there to solve their problem, work with them, has a sense of belonging in their neighborhood and a sense that it's going to be all right, I'm here now. I'm here to take care of you. This is what I want out of our police officers. And if technology helps in that way, then more power to technology. But we serve our goals, and we have these goals that will lead us to our mission. The goals are very, very clear. They're articulated, again, in the strategic plan. And I mention the strategic plan often because I honestly believe that in many organizations, a strategic plan is a kind of a thing that you prepare one time and then you put it on a shelf, frankly. It gathers dust over there as you go and do something else, or you do the urgent instead of focusing on the important, because the urgent is what is right in front of us in our headlights. And so we take the plan that we have made, just for some pro forma reason, we put it aside and we just do what we need to do every day or follow our calendar just because we got it down on our calendar. And so that's why I really want to push toward marrying the strategic plan with the budget, with performance evaluation, holding people accountable to do exactly what is in the plan. And so I come back in our staff meetings and things, when we talk about this with our leadership team, we talk about how are we doing, where are we, and how are we moving along these goals. And they're simple goals. We have 3 for the external, the community, 3 for the quality of the organization, the inside of the organization. And here for the community, we have reducing crime and the fear of crime. Recognizing, of course, that crime is statistically measurable, and the fear of crime, that's another thing. Whereas one elected person who was not elected in another jurisdiction, a friend of mine told me one time, I have discovered that statistics are relative, but perceptions are rock solid. And it was on those perceptions that she was not elected, as she told me. And because she talked about statistics, and people were going to the ballot box with perceptions. And this is true, because perceptions are visceral. And when the taxi drivers in the city of Portland now, after what happened in the night, and I got this information early this morning, as I got this briefing on a taxi driver who was shot multiple times and has been, I'm happy to report, listed from critical condition and to satisfactory condition. He will survive. He's been shot several times. He has several fragments still in his body. He's being treated at Emmanuel Hospital. When something like that happens, the taxi driving community will now have a fear level added to their work. That will happen. That's fear. And this is the thing that we want to deal with. Not only the statistical reality of crime, but the fear that it drives into neighborhoods, into communities like the taxi driving community that we have here in Portland, a service community that is out there every day. I do not want this to happen. I want people to be able to tuck their kids in bed at night and say, it's okay. Everything is okay. You know, and close the door quietly and know that it's going to be all right. That's the way it's supposed to be. Everything is okay. There's a peace about that. And that's this idea of crime and the fear of crime. And then improving the quality of life in neighborhoods. I mean, as we develop a quality of life is in the police side of things, as you look at it through my eyes, what are we trying to do here? Make clean and proper, nice-looking neighborhoods? Well, yes. But our perspective, our slice of this is a safety slice. So the reason we do that is because we know that there's a causal connection between disintegrating neighborhoods and crime. So we're after improving the quality of life in the neighborhood the appearance of it, the livability of it, because out of that comes the crime-resistant side of it. So we want crime-resistant neighborhoods that produce this crime-free city that we're after in our vision. And then to improve the community and police partnership, here we're after people and police being in this equation of we with great respect, having a minimum number of complaints against police officers, a high level of satisfaction index in the surveys that we take of people, asking them, how are we doing? How are we serving our customers? Is our customer satisfaction index the way it should be? Are we meeting with people? Those are the three goals that we have, and we'll keep them clear. We'll keep the complexity out of it. It's as simple as that. When it comes to the organizational goals now, our goals are simply these: people, things, and ways of doing things. And mainly we articulate this in this manner: develop and encourage personnel. That is to say, we, in our recruiting, selection, training, developing, promoting, transferring, disciplining, removing, firing, all of that has to do with the quality of the person in the organization. So we develop, we encourage people. And secondly, we obtain and make effective use of technology and equipment. In this world that I've described of high tech and low touch, we want to use that technology to advance the community policing concept instead of inhibit it. And so as we look to technology now, like internet mapping and like the reverse 911 system, that is the emergency notification system that will be there to notify people by telephone of the things that happen, this is taking technology and marrying it with community policing so that we can better serve our neighborhoods and communities. And so we want to take advantage of technology so that we can improve the capacity of how we actually reach out and touch people, not some thing that is said by some byline as an advertising byline, reaching out and touching someone when you really don't, when you care enough to send the best, when you really don't go. All of these cliches that are not real. We need to really go. And that's one of the reasons that we have taken our telephonic crime reporting system and streamlined it. My objective in time, as we get the necessary people that we have on board, is to reduce that telephonic reporting number to a bare minimum. I want police officers to face people when there's a crime, to know where the crime is occurring, to take a valid crime report, and to begin an investigation that will be properly logged, where people know that the police will be there for them when they need them. So we go for the technology and the devices, the equipment, and then finally we continually improve work processes. Much has been said about total quality management and TQ and all of that, and while some of it is pursued as a process at the expense of the reality, and it becomes almost a TQ religion, I think there's a lot to be said in the pursuit of quality. And that's why we have established in the organization work improvement teams that are focused on enhancing the way that we do everything that we do that has any value to the people that we serve. We have one on crime analysis. We have one on performance evaluations. We have one on the whole investigative system, the function. We have one on the internal investigation function. We have one on traffic, the traffic function. One on uniform and grooming standards. One on awards and decorations, on report writing, on radio communication, physical fitness standards, liability reduction, management information systems, and one that we have recently added, the development of the position of block captain, a volunteer position in the neighborhood, and then finally one that we just launched this last week on emergency operations preparedness, as we looked at the standing plans that are available for that kind of an unusual occurrence, and emergency, a flood and earthquake, some kind of a natural disaster. Our plans are not as rigorous as they should be. So we've launched a work improvement team in this area, continually improving the things that we do to get better, to actually build that quality in the organization where we can someday say, at the expense of being too arrogant or pompous, that this is truly a fine organization. Building the quality into the organization in the way that we do things. And so that's where we're going for the future. And you'll notice, if I can be so bold as to say that we've covered several of the things in these work improvement teams that you may have heard in the news media that had to do with a higher level of priority than we wish to give them. you heard several things in there that rang a little bell. And so, oh, there's that one. But I want to assure you, when it comes to uniforms and grooming standards, and when it comes to the traffic investigation function, keeping people from getting killed on our streets, what is more important? It is not I that gave this high priority to this one discussion that kind of went running away with it. It is not. And I have talked about this, and I have talked about these priorities with reporters, but what is it that is covered? One of these elements. And so that's why, Harriet, it's such a pleasure to be able to come and say the 13 work improvement teams that are actively alive and working on improving the quality of the organization, with reasons behind every one of those work improvement teams, and men and women working in those teams with very specific understanding of what the future should be in the process that they have undertaken. I conclude now with a couple of things that are out there in the future that are very substantial needs, and then a very personal appeal to each of you. As we now move toward this marriage of community policing with technology, working the technology to our benefit rather than to our detraction as we move forward in community policing, we will be developing more technology to serve that need, but also we will be moving the organization forward. You may have heard me talk about the senior neighborhood officer concept, and there's a concept of a police officer who is assigned to a geographic area, much like a district officer, except this officer now is detached from regular duties of answering the radio call and works with neighborhoods and stays there, gets paid a little bit more money if we can work it out with our funding sources and so forth. It's what's indicated in the Institute for Law and Justice report as the master police officer. We like the term senior police officer a little bit more gender specific, or gender sensitive, I should say. And so we have this senior police officer given to a specific area who is paid a little bit more, has a certain insignia specificity, and is going to stay there for 3 years, so that we have someone who is going to be there for the people, who can meet with the people, solve the problems, get acquainted, meet at those neighborhood associations, and be relegated specifically to there. Interesting thing happened. The people of a city in Holland, Arnhem, Holland, came to Portland, studied everything that we're doing in community policing, took it back and replicated it. It's amazing. It's a city in Holland that's very similar to our city. And then they went one step farther, and they developed this senior neighborhood officer program in Arnhem. We are now looking at all their information about that and what they're doing in Arnhem, Holland, to see what the next step was and where they took everything that they learned in Portland when they came here. And the senior neighborhood officer then works with the crime prevention specialists out of the Office of Neighborhood Improvement, and they also work with people in the neighborhoods, and they work with this person that we like to call the block captain. And that's where I would make my personal appeal to each of you. In the month of August, I want to appeal to every one of you. You will be getting a letter from Mayor Katz and I, and precinct commanders, members of the police bureau, will be meeting out in community meetings, and I think the month of August is a good, particularly good month for this. We've cleared our Rose Festival and the various things of the summer. People should be headed back from vacation, and I want to see you there. I hope you'll come out and get involved in where you are going in your neighborhood, be it a business neighborhood or a residential one. And I would like to ask you now to consider signing up as a block captain for your particular block. What does this mean? It means that you take a leadership role, communicate with neighbors, do those things that are already being done, basically, but you focus on the public safety in your neighborhood, and you establish yourself in a leadership role. This is a volunteer leadership position, and we'll be asking you to do that. And finally, I want to ask you to do something that is a desperate need that we have in the Portland Police Bureau. We have launched a program inside the organization called Recruit a Partner, and today I'm asking you to recruit a neighbor. Inside the organization, we ask police officers, you know who the people are out there who could sign up and become good police officers. You know their characteristics, you know their qualities. Find them, recruit them, and we'll sustain your recruitment efforts by reaching out to the people that you select. So now, today, I'm asking the people in Portland, you do the same. Recruit a neighbor, from the neighborhood to the neighborhood. I'm convinced that the best police candidates and the conditions that we've established for selection in the future and the standards that the mayor and I have selected upon, that includes retaining that 4-year degree for police officers, but those best candidates are right here in Portland. It's very tough to find them right now in this particular condition, as you've all heard, with the economy being what it is, unemployment being down as it is, very difficult. It's hard. It's really hard to find the candidates. Commissioner Howard Safer in New York told me he had 50,000 candidates take the test every time they offered it. Now they have 6,000 to take it. This is a national trend and trying to find police candidates. And so I'm asking all of you to recruit a neighbor. Find some young woman, some young man, somebody living in your house, a son or daughter, a neighbor's son or daughter, or maybe you, and you'll be the neighbor. But we need men and women who care about Portland, and we need people who will be community police officers and everything that entails. People that are willing to carry a gun and use it when they have to, but don't want to use it. People who will have a reverence for the law, but have discretion in its enforcement. People who have a sensitivity and a tenderness, and at the same time capacity to be a gunfighter when you have to in the horrible moment that presents itself to us. And so we need people. We need about 100 people in the year ahead. We're recruiting very heavily. I just had the discussion this morning with the recruitment members in the personnel division about how I can personally energize their efforts, and I've decided to accompany for a short hop down and back to visits in what they're doing in recruiting the lateral candidates in the cities of Seattle and Phoenix and Los Angeles, places where we can find minority candidates. I'm going to go there myself and join them for an open house and say, come to Portland and become police officers in a great place. We have substantial underrepresentation, as you know. We have 33 African-American police officers, actually 32. One just left us, Rod Beard. Some of you know Lieutenant Rod Beard. 32 police officers. We should have 63 African-American. That would represent about 6% of our population. We have 24 Latino police officers. We should have 37. That'd be about 4%, probably undercounted, substantially undercounted, as often is the case in metropolitan areas like ours. We have 169 women in the Portland Police Bureau. We should have about 269, which would represent about 25%. And so, and we need all minorities, Native Americans, Asian Pacifics. But specifically where we are underrepresented is in this area of African American, Latino, and women candidates. And so I'm appealing to you this afternoon, the members of the community of Portland, recruit a neighbor. Join us in this quest to find the best men and women for the future of the Portland Police Bureau, so that we can, in fact, achieve the vision of making Portland the safest city in the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Kroeker, for your comments. I'm a little mystified. We want secure communities. We want Portland a community of many wonderful smaller communities and individualities to be well protected. Yet you're having trouble recruiting. Your fellow officers in other cities are running into the same problem. What's the deal? Why do we want protection, yet no one is willing to do what's necessary to make that protection happen?
Well, we do have candidates. We have people who are interested, just not enough. And when we have young women, men and women who look out there toward a future, they are going to other careers. They're going to other places. And we need to get our message out there that the Portland Police Bureau is a good place to work, that if you're looking for fulfillment and you're looking for satisfaction in your life that comes not from monetary things, but from the pleasure of serving people, this is the place to find it. Or as my daughter said to me one time when she decided to become a police officer and about knocked me off my chair because I didn't think she would ever decide in that way. I thought maybe my sons, but my little girl. And she said, Dad, I just can't think of any way to help people than when they need you the most. How could I argue with her? So she became a cop. So we need more people like my daughter Katrina. And it's tough to find them. Why can't we? I will not fall to the cynicism of saying, you know, that people don't care anymore about serving their. I see young people in our communities and in the city of Portland, the places I've been, like at schools where I've seen the leadership programs and scholarship programs come alive, and I've been invited and met them. I mean, we have a lot of people who care. It's not that they don't care. I think the economy is beckoning them otherwise, and parents like you parents are convincing them to go somewhere else. That's why I'm trying to convince you to send them to us.
Good afternoon, Chief Kroeker.
Good afternoon.
Erwin Mandel. I'm co-chair of the club's Public Service and Safety Committee. Would you please comment on the seemingly intriguing notion and the ramifications of this notion that have been brought forth recently that free speech trumps traffic?
Oh, okay. The best way I can have to answer that question is to say that yes, in following the metaphor, that there is a deck of cards, and there is a trump card. This deck of cards I would like to put on the discussion with the City Council and have this discussed. I would offer my input to it, but this is something where the city does need to come together and make this conclusion and make this discussion. And judging by Mayor Katz's remarks in the City Council when I presented the May Day report, this is going to take place, and I'm happy to see that is going to take place. We have a society of laws, and we are law enforcement officers. We hope that we can have the kind of discretion with the enforcement of the law, the kind of a good judgment and respect as we enforce the law for all people. But we have to have some things clarified. It'd be good if that discussion took place.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Portland.
Thank you.
Susan Oliver, club member. What kind of metrics are you looking for? What benchmarks are you using for the safest city in 2005?
Well, there are various ways, if you don't mind.
I'm assuming this is going to be on the website eventually.
Of course. And by the way, coming soon, I hope, as we work out the details, will be a mapping system where you can look up the crime that is taking place and so forth. And in addition to that, the crime levels that are out there. But the criterion that we have used comes from in this statement. And by the way, Portland, in the last Morgan Kitno Press, judging from the FBI's uniform crime reporting of the 1998, puts Portland 251. Now you might ask, okay, what is the comparison with that's the benchmark. What is the comparison with, I won't go around West Coast cities or the other, you might be interested about what city is number one. Newton, Massachusetts. Don't move there, stay in Portland, we're gonna get there. The comparable cities include, in size, Denver, Colorado, 195, Seattle at 227, Cincinnati at 229, Sacramento, California, 243, here we are, Portland, 251, Charlotte, North Carolina, 253, and Kansas City, 304. So you get the idea of the other similar size cities in the country. We need to step out.
I think I was more interested in murder rates, assault rates.
Yes, and
Which are the
these numbers
factors?
are on those numbers. In other words, the Part 1 crimes of murder, aggravated assault, robbery, rape, arson, and car theft. All those numbers are the principal ones the Uniform Crime Reports put together, and out of that amalgam comes this question of crime, the crime-free nature and level.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, my name is Fred Rosenbaum. I'm a member of the City Club. Congratulations to Mayor Vera Katz for bringing you to this city. A few days ago, there was an article in USA Today that talked about corporate dress codes. And it mentioned in that article that corporate America is getting a little tired of the Docker pants and the golf shirts, and not only getting tired, but find that this appearance creates problems with discipline, creates problems with professional status, creates interesting enough problems with sexual harassment. And so we see that the golf shirt is beginning to head in the closet again for Saturday. I wonder, Chief, if you would like to comment on that in relationship to appearance of police officers, male and female, in the city of Portland.
All right, thank you. Well, the parts of that, of course, and that's, I didn't see the particular article, Fred, but I will say that when it comes to an appearance, a professional appearance, meaning neat, sharp, looks like a police officer, wears a uniform, properly groomed and presentable to the public, that, as I mentioned, this is not the number one thing that we're working on. It's a variety of things that we are working on. It is important. And you know, if you go to see a physician is going to do the surgery, and that physician is dressed exactly like you and doesn't have the accoutrements of medicine and the equipment around him, you're going to wonder, could I please see a doctor? And so I guess that's what we're after, and not to make that the major thing, but I do think it is important as we serve our customers. And then you add to this the sense of unity and morale. I can't tell you a number of police officers who have literally begged me to do something about letting us feel that we're somebody by making us feel a little bit tighter as a unit and sharper. And there's that. Then there's the operational necessity that comes with the equipment and the safety of it and so forth, and the various things that have to be attended to. And there is a standard. There's a standard somewhere that needs to be set, and we've set that standard. It's a rigorous one, but we just, in fact, signed the general order, and it's out there circulating right now. And the officers have until, employees, I should say, have until the 1st of August to you know, get their uniforms right and get cleaned up. And so we are moving in that direction. And it does make a difference. I'm convinced of it.
Paul Milius, a club member. I just want to make another comment on that same topic. When I told my significant other I'm coming to the City Club today to hear your talk, she said, "Tell them that we like our police officers with beards and ponytails. It makes them a little warmer and fuzzier."
Yeah, so, I got a letter from someone that said, "Chief Kroeker, you should chill out, grow a beard, and get an earring."
Might help.
Maybe so.
However, yesterday afternoon and this morning, I can't pretend it was very extensive research. I made a couple of calls, both to the county and to the police, to see if I could find out how much we're spending on drug enforcement. And Captain Kochier?
Larry Kochever.
Kochever, yes. Did call me back and left a message and said that you don't keep those statistics separate from your regular patrol statistics, so that there's, you know, you don't have a ready number to say we spend X amount on drug enforcement. If by some miracle of common sense policy making we were able to move from the current police state model of drug control in this country and go to a public health model, what would that mean in terms of you're not having to enforce these laws for, you know, low-level offenders, what have you, simple possession, carrying it in your car? What would it mean in terms of A, your budget priorities, and B, in terms of your staffing levels, if you no longer had to enforce that particular set of laws?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because where would that go? You know, if you take this "if" and you run a philosophical stream, and this is it's a dialogue, and I participated in this as a willing spectator and participant for now several years about this stream of thought on drug control. And you do run this out, and you wonder, and you can take a look at the expense of policing that is involved in this whole drug world. And the costs then that come from, if you would add to that, then the costs that come from addiction and the need for it, and then the crimes that occur out of the addiction that takes place, and tremendous upsurge that has just taken place in the last few months, by the way, on methamphetamine use in the state of Oregon, specifically the seizures by the Regional Organized Crime Narcotic Task Force. So you run that through, and you know, the savings, I would say, would be enormous in the police, but would they just dissipate? I mean, would everything be nice the next day? And I propose that that this thinking should include the transfer of these costs. Where do they go? And where now, when you acknowledge the elements of addiction that include not only dependence, but the need to have more that is always there, something that's often forgotten, and the clinical dispensing of drugs, for example, that there is this idea of tolerance. Where does a person go after a certain amount when the tolerance exceeds the ability to dispense it? And then you have this life of crime, as is often the case in places where they have had dispensing situations. So it's a displacement, granted, but we have to talk this all the way through and consider every single angle, not just the police and the prison budgets, which is the simplistic side of analyzing this financial side. But it's a good discussion. I think it's really a worthwhile discussion we ought to participate in.
I would submit that you could do a public health model that would account for most of that, and but that's another
I'd be
discussion.
very happy to see it.
I'm Robert Morris Smith, a member, and I have been an anti-war activist most of my life. And during the Vietnam period, I was the point person to obtain permits for the American Friends Service Committee. We always had complete cooperation from the police bureau. We did not worry that we would be beaten or attacked. And so in light of that, I was very disturbed about the May Day activities. It seemed that the police came on with that intent, or it appeared that way. I may want to protest again, and I don't want to fear being beaten or knocked down. And I would like to know from you what you expect to prevent that from happening again.
This discussion has taken us, of course, through the development of a report that addresses specifically those concerns. This report we took to the City Council, as you know. And the concerns there have this fundamental police ideal. And the ideal is that people need to be safe when they are demonstrating and exercising their right under the Constitution. It is a tradition that certainly exists with me and professional police officers, and one that I hammered as I was in Bosnia for that time. You can imagine the antipathies there. That when people demonstrate, they need to be left alone to air whatever view they have. This exists under a rule of law, where when people of opposing views, for example, come to the street, then police are there to protect them as they demonstrate, and to protect their rights to be activists and say the things that they want to say, all in adherence to the law. It's all under the law and the Constitution. And so what can I assure you is that we have embedded into the organizations the lessons that have been learned from what we have gone through. It's a learning process. It's not over. We have training. We have command. We have command emphasis on my part that needs to take place. You have the right, and we don't stand in the way of that right to air grievances and say things that you wish to say. And so we will protect that right, and I'll do the best of my ability as your chief to make sure that this organization does that.
Charlie Davis, a member. 2 questions in less than 30 seconds. What do you think about Miranda now, and what do you think about racial profiling?
Miranda's good, racial profiling is bad. No, I'll be a little bit more specific. You know, the Miranda decision, and as it was retooled again, once again, and addressed once again, police have complained that it is a severe detractor in the way they do their work. I think the Miranda decision in the long run has helped police to do their work, because it has given them the clear understanding that the person has been advised and is not operating under duress, and as a result, the officer is protected from those accusations that they have exercised some duress, hurt this person or something, or forced and coerced a confession. You have a clean confession made